We're live streaming.
All right. Good evening. Welcome to this forum for candidates running for State School Superintendent, Public Service Commission, and Commissioner of Agriculture. There are primary elections happening on May 19th for these races. In the May 19th primary election, these candidates will appear on the ballot. I am Hillary Lynn, Special Events Chair for DeKalb Dems, and on behalf of our organization, I welcome you to this very important event. Tonight, we will hear from candidates on where they stand on public safety, economic development, housing, infrastructure, and more. We have lots of great questions that our team has prepared, and we hope to have enough time for additional questions from the audience. We are streaming live on multiple platforms, and a recording of this forum will be available on our YouTube channel. The DeKalb County Democratic Committee relies on donations and volunteers to present truthful information to the citizens of DeKalb County. To officially kick off our evening, it is my distinct honor to introduce the Chair of DeKalb Dems, a tireless advocate for our community, Ms. Brandy Weish. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I want to start by giving a special thank you to our special events chair, Hillary Lynn, who was instrumental in planning this forum. We are so grateful for you and all of the time and dedication that you put into this work. Thank you so much, Hillary. I also want to thank Amy Farrow, Val Farrelly, Dr. Bola Tillman, Leona Perry, and the rest of the team for organizing this essential event for our community. We have a fantastic panel of candidates with us tonight, and we are so grateful for their willingness to serve. And tonight's conversation is a crucial part of the democratic process. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of paying attention to Georgia's statewide races like these in understanding who is running, what their platform is. So thank you all for being here with us tonight, and thank you also to each of our candidates here with us. I would now like to introduce our moderator. So leading tonight's conversation is DeJuan Robinson. DeJuan is a West Atlanta native and lifelong community advocate whose commitment to civic engagement began at the age of 10 when he worked alongside the late Hosea Williams on voting campaigns. As one of the first graduates of the Atlanta Police Citizens Academy and a trusted voice in West Atlanta, DeJuan has spent decades holding city leadership accountable on issues ranging from zoning and housing to economic inequality and displacement. His work advocating for families affected by income inequality and his commitment to ensuring that the government serves the people, not just the powerful, aligns perfectly with the issues at the heart of tonight's forum. So please join me in welcoming DeJuan Robinson. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Brandy, for those kind words and warm welcome. Again, to our audience, and especially for our candidate joining us this evening. The Commission of Agriculture oversees Georgia's #1 industry regulating food safety, supporting farmers, managing farmers market, and ensuring that fresh, affordable food reaches communities across the state. The state school superintendent leads Georgia's public education system, overseeing school funding, curriculum standards, and teacher recruitment, and accountability measures that determine whether every child receives a quality education. The Public Service Commission regulates Georgia utilities companies, making decisions about every electricity rates, broadband access, and energy infrastructure that directly impact working families' monthly bills and economic security. Tonight, we are holding a critical conversation with Democratic candidates who are running to claim these offices and use their power to ensure food security, strengthen public education, regulate utility companies, and deliver justice for all Georgians. You may notice that all candidates are not with us, or that the candidates may arrive after we have begun. Campaigning is incredibly demanding. Boy, do I know that. And schedules can be unpredictable. To ensure we have much time as possible for our discussion, we will focus on the candidate that is with us in a given moment, and at any given moment, we will not stop to acknowledge arrivals or departures. We thank every candidate for their commitment to this process. Before we begin, let's review the ground rules that each candidate has agreed to in advance. The first ground rule, each candidate will have 90 seconds to make an opening statement. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer prepared questions, follow-up questions. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer audience questions. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to make a closing statement. Please do not call out other candidates by name. Let's focus on the issues and policy. I'm glad I'm the moderator because I'm used to calling out people's names when I'm running for office, but that's not always a nice thing to do. So please make sure we refrain from calling out other candidates. This is not a debate. This is a friendly forum. And the timekeeper, if you go over your time, you will be muted. So we ask that you please stay within the 90-second and the 60-second time frame. Sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulties here. Okay.
I think we can hear you again, Dewan, now.
Okay, before we begin asking questions, we will give each candidate the opportunity to make an introduction of themselves. Starting with Dr. Anton Anthony, in 90 seconds, please make your opening statement telling us what makes you uniquely qualified for this position.
Thank you, and hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Anton Anthony, and currently I am the proud superintendent of Hancock County Public Schools, as well as your Democratic candidate for school superintendent. What makes me different? I've served in this great state as a teacher, public school teacher, bus driver, an assistant principal, a principal in Sumter County and Richmond County. I've also served as a human resource manager in DeKalb County. So shout out to DeKalb, and thank you so much, you all, for inviting me, because I feel like this is home. And now superintendent of Hancock County Public Schools. I'm running because I've seen with my own eyes how Georgia Department of Education, as well as the Governor's Office of Student Achievement, they label schools as the bottom 25% schools as failures, and they put them on a list called the promise list or the voucher list without offering real supports. And I'm running to offer those real supports. I've seen how every child is different, every student, every school is different, and every district is different. And I use this all the time. And for the community, if everyone is watching, if I am a teacher at heart, and if half of you are failing and half of you are passing, as a good teacher, it is up for a good teacher to offer the supports to those students that are failing. And that's what Georgia Department of Education is supposed to be doing. That's what they're not doing. And that's why I'm running as your state school superintendent. So my name is Dr. Anton Anthony, and I hope to earn your vote tonight.
Next, Mr. Craig Cupid. Can you please explain to us in 90 seconds, tell us what makes you uniquely qualified for this position?
Good evening. My name is Craig Cupid, and I am running for the Georgia Public Service Commission District 5. For those who don't know, the PSC decides how much you pay for energy. When your bill goes up, when the lights go out during a storm, when billions are spent on infrastructure to power data centers, those are the PSC's decisions affecting every family and small business in this state. I grew up in Augusta in a lower income family. My parents immigrated from Trinidad and Tobago. My dad was an electrician, my mom an office worker and veteran, a working class family. We only ran the AC at night during Georgia's brutal summers because that's what we could afford. Every penny counted. I earned my electrical engineering degree from Georgia Tech and my law degree from Georgia State. I spent several years as a partner at one of the largest law firms in the country, working with the exact technology shaping Georgia's energy future: artificial intelligence, electric vehicles, renewable energy, and power generation. I'm running because the PSC needs someone who can read the utilities technical studies and know when they're padding projections. Someone with the legal training to advocate not for utility shareholders, but for Georgia ratepayers. Someone who remembers what it's like when every penny on the utility bill matters. I'm Craig Cupid. Love Georgia. Vote Cupid. Thank you.
Ms. Sheila Edwards, you next. Please make your statement telling us what makes you uniquely qualified for this position. Ms. Sheila Edwards, is she here?
She's on mute. Ms. Edwards, if you can unmute yourself. You're unmuted, but there looks like there may be some issues with your sound. Okay, we will, while we work on that issue in the background, we will go forward with Ms. Presley.
Hello, Georgia. I'm Angela Presley for the Georgia Public Service Commission, District 5. And I've been a DeKalb resident for 20 years. I have been operating at the intersection of business and environmental sustainability for over 20 years, and I'm currently a university professor at Clark Atlanta. What does that mean for you? That means that I am deeply committed to research and identifying issues that are plaguing us in terms of our energy bills as well as the grid. I plan to visit all 5 districts to evaluate what are the issues so that I can put resources toward them to lower our bills. As well, I plan to advocate for more renewable energy because it is the strength of this country at the moment. It also will save us on our utility bills and save the environment from very nasty emissions. Finally, I plan to have an independent study of data centers so that we can understand the environmental impact to save our health, but also that we operate as socially responsible business owners for our ratepayers. Thank you. My name is Angela Presley. You can learn more about me at Presley, Pressley, forgapsc.com. You can find my educational background and other pertinent information. Thank you, Georgia.
Ms. Edwards, are you ready, Ms. Edwards? We still can't hear you, Ms. Edwards.
Testing.
Yes.
There we go. Now we got you.
Testing.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Testing.
Can you hear me, Ms. Edwards?
Okay, looks like she
Okay.
has some issues with her mic, so we can go ahead to Ms. Powell.
Okay. Ms. Lydia Powell, you have 90 seconds to tell us what make you uniquely qualified for this position. Ms. Powell?
Yes, hello. I'm so sorry. Greetings, everyone. We were working on some technical difficulties. My name is Dr. Lydia Powell, and I am running to be your next state superintendent of schools. I have 26 years of education experience. I've worked in DeKalb, Clayton, Fayette, and Henry County schools. I am a post-seat holder for the Fayette County Democrats. In addition to that, I sit on the Ethics Commission as the chair for the city of Fayetteville. My goals are to connect rural Georgia, also expand pre-K. In addition to that, I want to look at standardized testing and ensure that we are not over-testing our students and we don't have an over-reliance on testing. Thank you. I'm Dr. Lydia Powell.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. Ms. Edwards, are you going to try to?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. My apologies.
Oh, no, it's okay. So, Ms. Edwards, you have 90 seconds to tell us and the whole Georgia that's listening, what makes you uniquely qualified for this position?
Okay, well, I'm Sheila Edwards, and I'm running for the Georgia Public Service Commission. Okay, it seems like I have an echo here. Let me continue to work on this.
Do you want to keep going, or do you want us to come back to you at the end?
Come back to me, please.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cedric Kent Rowe Jr., you are next. You have 90 seconds, sir, to please let us know what make you uniquely qualified for this position.
Can everyone hear me okay? All right. How you doing? My name is Cedric Kent Rowe Jr. I'm currently running for Commissioner of Agriculture. What makes me unique about this, by me running is I'm a first-generation farmer. I'm a PhD candidate at Tuskegee University, where I'm studying my PhD on integrated bioscience. I'm currently getting ready to graduate. I did a lot of advocacy, policy work with supporting young Black farmers and also minority farmers. Testified twice, once for the Senate, also the Ag Committee. I didn't inherit a farm, I built it from the ground up, so I know what hard work looks like. And I'm running on three things. First, fix the system. Farmers shouldn't have to wait years for disaster relief funds and also other aid. Also running off of Feed Your Own. That's bridging the gap between rural Georgia and metro Georgia when it comes to farm to school and food desert areas. And I'm also running on lower the cost. With that is support more farmer markets and food desert areas, bridging that gap between rural and Georgia when it comes to food access to school systems. And also, like I said, you can find me at Row for Georgia. That's ROWEFOR Georgia.com for more vote Row.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe Jr. Ms. Edwards, are you going to try to give this one more chance, Ms. Edwards? We can't hear you.
We cannot hear you.
Ms. Edwards, we may have to just come towards the end to allow you to come give to add your introduction and close out with your 90 minutes, or maybe an extra 30 seconds, maybe towards the end because you're digging it. Okay. Thank you, candidates, for respecting our time limitation. And now let's get right into the questions. Again, please limit your response to only 90 seconds. I will read each question once, and if you need me to repeat, please let me know. So our first question of the night is, if elected, what is your specific plan to ensure that low-income communities, both urban and rural, receive equitable access to the resources your office controls? And how will you measure whether your policies are actually closing these gaps? First, let's start with Mr. Ota. Oh, you know what? I apologize. The last candidate we had was Mr. Ota Thornton. Please forgive me. I jumped ahead. Mr. Thornton, can you please give us 90 seconds as to what make you uniquely qualified for this position? Please forgive me.
Good evening, DeKalb County. My name is Ota Thornton. I'm an educator. I'm a native 8th generation Georgian, a former White House official, and former national PTA president. I've led at the national level, worked at state level, and served in classroom and communities across Georgia. As national PTA president, I helped shape the current education policy, Every Student Succeeds Act, in coordination with the White House and the United States Congress. But what matters tonight is DeKalb County. I collaborate with your superintendent, Dr. Sauce, and superintendents in rural, suburban, and rural areas all around Georgia and also the nation. DeKalb has about 92,000 students in 138 schools, which 85% of those are Title I. I work with your DeKalb District 11 PTA with 8,000 members. And recently, I brought 500 students, educators, and leaders from DeKalb to the state capitol so they could see democracy in action. That's not theory, that's leadership. Georgia's education system is operating under a 1985 funding model, while our children are living in 2026. We need literacy that leads to opportunity. We need career pathways that lead to jobs and funding that reflects the current needs of students. I bring the experience, the relationships, and results to deliver on day one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thornton. Please forgive me again. And Mr. Thornton, you're leading off the first question. Let me repeat these questions again. If elected, what is your specific plan to ensure that low-income communities, both urban and rural, receive equitable access to resources your office controls? And how will you measure whether your policies are actually closing the gaps?
Okay, first of all, equity starts with one truth. Georgia's funding system is outdated. So as superintendent, I will work directly with the governor and the General Assembly to overhaul our current funding formula into a true needs-based model. First, targeted resources, more funding for low-income schools, their infrastructure, technology, and support services. The second thing is real community engagement. Parents, educators, and local organizations shaping real solutions. And third, targeted programs, tutoring, after-school support, and mental health services. And fourth, accountability. We can track these outcomes, the graduation rates, and resource distribution. Because if outcomes don't change, then the system hasn't changed.
Ms. Angela Presley, you're next.
Thank you for that question. So, as I mentioned at the top of in my introduction, that I'm deeply committed to research, which is why I plan to visit all 5 districts and evaluate. So, because from Buckhead to Bankhead, the mountains to the coast, everyone should have equitable energy. And we see brownouts in all communities. We also see blackouts. So my purpose for visiting those communities is to, one, listen, to have that accountability, hear from ratepayers what they're experiencing with the grid, and then bring that back to the board to come up with some solutions and put some resources toward it. Georgia Power is only appropriating about 5 million to resources, but we need much more than that so that we can fix the grid and so that we can have lower energy costs for people who may have older homes. And so I will be able to track that in a dashboard that lets ratepayers know real time what they're experiencing and what the timeline is for addressing it. And we would do that on an ongoing basis. I'd also like to always invite ratepayers to the commission because they will finally have someone who listened. I'm in this race because I observed that they weren't being listened to, and I want to change that. Thank you. My name is Angela Presley for the Georgia Public Service Commission.
Thank you for that, Ms. Presley. Ms. Lydia Powell, you're next.
Hello, greetings, everyone. So Mr. Thornton was correct in looking at that QBE rate. So currently there is no poverty rate that is calculated with QBE. And when we look at our demographics in the state of Georgia, if we look at our report card, which is the CCRPI, 74.8% of our students are economically disadvantaged. I'll say that again. 74.8% of the students in Georgia are economically disadvantaged. So why doesn't the QBE formula account for poverty? So that is the first thing I would do, is to advocate with our legislatures to ensure that that QBE rate is changed. In addition to that, I would also work to mobilize the community, looking at grassroots efforts, because of course, this came up last year during the legislative session and it did not pass. So you have to mobilize your community, educate your community, because a lot of people do not understand what CCRPI, what the poverty rate means, what QBE even is. And currently they take into account gifted, ESOL, and special ed, but that only makes up less than 25% of our population. So when we want to really see gains in our students, we have to provide that funding so that we can recruit teachers, we can train teachers so that they can adequately support our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cedric Kent Rowe Jr., you're up next.
Thank you. To answer that question, I will start off by first being giving all farmers and ranchers from all small and large scale, a seat at the table. That's the first part right there. We need to know the issue. We need to know what's going on to bridge that gap. Also, speaking about opportunity, that's basically expanding those markets, as I said in my intro. We want to expand those markets that way in rural Georgia, and also urban Georgia is tied and also have access to the same resources. Fairness, that's leveling on the playing field. We want to make sure that no matter where you are in Georgia, you have that same access and same availability to those resources as any other person in other areas of the state. That's the big disconnect with rural Georgia and urban metro Atlanta. And lastly, building thriving communities. We want the farmers to get more profit off of their produce while consumers save money. Open up those markets, more CSA programs will also make it easy on consumers' pockets, and not only that, but make it more profitable for farmers.
Thank you for that. Dr. Anton Anthony, do you need me to repeat the question or you're okay?
I think I'm okay. I'm just going to expand on everyone else's answer because one of the inequities that I've noticed, I've worked in rural and also urban. So before I was superintendent in Hancock, I was a hiring manager in DeKalb County for DeKalb County Public Schools. And it's over 100 schools in DeKalb County. And they're blessed to have different schools that offers different pathways, the magnet schools, public charters, as well as an international school for students who speak different languages. But that doesn't exist in rural Georgia. And so my specific plan is to actually coordinate with our local RESA. So I sit on the board of a local RESA, Regional Educational Support Agency, and the superintendents actually serve as a board member and is ran by the executive director. I plan on creating a metro type school for those rural areas. What that means is if a district has a great ag program, because I'm thinking about Mr. Kent Rowe that's running for that. If the school has a great ag program and we can't afford it in Hancock, collaborating with the strong district that has that to expose all of our kids to a great education, not just in Metro Atlanta or Augusta or Macon, but ensure that all students are exposed to a quality education. How do we measure that? Through our CTAE exposure rates, as well as grade level reading to ensure that our kids are exposed to great teaching as well. But it shouldn't matter about a zip code for our kids to be exposed to a great quality education. So if our kids are in DeKalb or Fulton, we want to have that same level of support, creating those metro areas inside of every local RESA and those rural RESAs, so our kids can be exposed to those CTAE pathways that they're not being exposed to because we can't afford it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. Ms. Edwards, have we resolved our technical difficulty on your end? Ms. Sheila Edwards, are you good?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. Do you need me to repeat the question or are you okay?
Would you like me to start with my opening or how would you like to proceed?
With the question, the first question.
All right, well, I would like you to repeat the question, please.
Okay, yes, no problem. If elected, what is your specific plan to ensure that low-income communities, both urban and rural, receive equitable access to resources your office controls? And how will you measure whether your policies are actually closing the gap?
Well, first, I treat affordability and access as a core regulatory outcome, not just a side issue. I push for percentages to ensure that low-income and moderate families are paying their share and not paying more than what they should be paying. Secondly, I'd like to invest in the need where it's greatest. That means that trying to approve rate increases on the backs of low-income families should not be the process or the path that we choose. We should be fixing outage-prone grids. We should be improving rural infrastructure, and we should be doing the things that expand broadband within those marginalized communities. I think that there are certain things that we have the power to do as public service commissioners, and that may not be to, be able to tell utilities what to do, but we can tell them that they need to create more situations that allow low-income families to be able to participate in some of these programs that are out there. We need to widen the gap to allow more people to participate, and we need to have the utility company put funds in place to catch these marginalized people so nobody's utilities get turned off in the winter when it's the coldest or in the summer when it's the hottest time of the year. We have to turn around and put public service back into the Public Service Commission. It's supposed to service people, not utilities. And when I'm elected as a third vote on the Public Service Commission, I'm going to do just that. I'm going to lead meetings and other events in the various parts of the state. I was a 2022 Democratic nominee for Public Service Commission, and I traveled the state with Stacey Abrams and Patty Durant. And we were talking with communities, talking with individuals about their utilities and the issues that they faced. And I've been to the Public Service Commission's meetings advocating for these issues. And I was at the forefront of this when it wasn't sexy, when nobody else was paying attention. And I'm glad folks are paying attention now. But, as I said, I was the 2022 Democratic nominee, won without a runoff, beating out two other candidates because the people across the state understood the issues I was talking about, the pocketbook issues, the issues that impact seniors and families and veterans, those things where they have to try to decide whether to pay their groceries or keep a roof over their head or pay their utility bills, where the seniors have to decide whether they have to, have funds to pay for medication or have to go without because they have to pay Georgia Power. So I'm going to make sure that these people have a voice, that they're present, and that they don't have to worry about my office hours because I'll be coming to them. You have a lot of politicians that decide that they can't talk with folks unless it's based on their office hours. My office hours will be 24/7, and I will come to the people, and I will be on top of the issues, and I will advocate similar to what I said I would do in 2022, to be that person advocating for each and every family across the state. And they gave me their vote in 2022 for the Democratic primary, and I'm asking them to give me their vote again this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Stand right there, Ms. Evans. Question number 2 is for you. You're the first one for question number 2.
Okay.
Hey, I just want to say Craig Cupid hasn't gone for question 1, so I didn't know if
Craig Cupid, please apologize. I apologize. Please accept my apology, Mr. Cupid. You were actually after Ms. Presley. Please forgive me on that.
Okay, yeah, no problem. This question is personal to me. I grew up in Augusta's Barnum Village neighborhood where we rationed electricity because every penny counted. I know what energy poverty looks like. It's choosing between running the air conditioner and buying groceries. The PSC controls something fundamental: how much fairness, how much families and small businesses pay for power and whether that power is reliable. Right now, low-income families spend a far higher percentage of their income on utilities. That's an equity problem the PSC has the power to address. First, I'll demand analysis showing how proposed increases affect families at every income level. Second, I'll push to expand energy efficiency programs targeted at underserved communities, both urban and rural. Efficiency improvements are the cheapest ways to lower bills, but those programs need to reach the families and small businesses that need them the most. Third, I'll measure progress with real data, tracking energy burden by income level and geography, and requiring the utility to report on program participation in underserved areas. As an electrical engineer who grew up counting pennies, I understand both the technical solutions and the human impact. That combination is what real oversight requires. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cupid. And again, please forgive me. Question number 2, if elected, what is your specific plan to build climate resilience in the community most vulnerable to climate disasters? And what will you do to ensure that farmers, students and families in underserved communities aren't left behind in disaster recovery efforts. I'm starting with you, Ms. Edwards.
Okay, well, thank you for that question. My plan is simple: to prepare before the disasters and to recover more fairly after them. Because we see most times, most of these communities that are negatively impacted are waiting for funds to be let down to their communities. And we have to change the narrative on that, and we have to allow those funds to be in place on day one. We know that a storm is coming, and yeah, we tell people to get out of the way, to batten down the hatches, et cetera, et cetera. But what happens when the storm actually hits? When homes are torn up, when roofs are gone, when trees are in people's bedrooms? We have to turn around and be able to provide the resources that are necessary immediately, not 30 days later, 45 days later, and in some instances, years later, that these people are still trying to resolve these issues. So with me as your PSC commissioner, I will be boots on the ground. I will be in the governor's office working with him. I will be working with the legislators across the state and making sure that the people within your communities have the necessary resources in order to prepare ahead of time and to correct whatever problems they receive from the storm or the disasters that hit and impact their lives. It is so important that we get people back on their feet and get them functioning so that they can move forward. And under my plan, we're going to do that. For farmers, that means supporting them with various solutions, whether it's solar, irrigation, reducing the costs that they have to pay for operational needs, and taking care of them during bad weather, droughts, or the rainy day season that never seems to stop. So when it comes to disaster recovery, I'm going to hold accountable the utility companies, not just for continuously trying to charge more rates, but this means creating timelines for repairs, timelines for getting people back up and functioning. And I'll also protect families financially. No more shutoffs, no more late fees, and real emergency assistance, especially during these time periods. We have to be better prepared as leaders. We have to make sure that we are meeting people where they are and not forcing them to go without because we're taking our times making decisions. These decisions need to be made in real time because they have real effect on working families, seniors, veterans, and other people who are marginalized in our communities. So the quicker we can get back up and running, the better it would be. And because resilience isn't just about infrastructure, it's about making sure that no one gets left behind. And as your public service commissioner, I will ensure that that never happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. Mr. Cedric Kent Rowe Jr.
Okay. All right. First, I want to start by we need to, well, being a farmer myself, being affected by two disasters, Hurricane Michael and Hurricane Helen. Not only a farmer, but a beginning farmer, a small scale farmer. So I got to, experience a lot hands-on and go through the trenches and fires just like any other beginning or farmer in general. So that right there played a big part in affecting operational products being pushed, and also different crops that we can grow in the time of year. So with me in that position, I would first modernize the system, make it more digitalized to where farmers don't have to, like you say, have to wait years for those disaster relief funds. It doesn't help farmers and it doesn't help consumers. If Georgia wants to stay number one, which is agriculture in the industry, in Georgia, agriculture is the number one economic income that Georgia has, but if we want to protect that, we need to make sure we insure farmers. Like she said, make sure that farmers get those aids before the disaster. That comes with planning, working with different federal offices that farmers have to go through for these relief funds. So we need to also ensure that the state has, its funding to be able to help these farmers at the critical time rather than being able to wait on funds. We need to put the tools in every farmer, small, rural Georgia, urban Georgia hands. And that comes with the resources. Deploying task forces that go into these communities prior to the disasters. One thing about Georgia is we know where storms hit the most and how they impact certain areas. So these task forces will go in and survey the area. That way damage can be done.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. We have to go to the next candidate.
And the next candidate is Dr. Anton Anthony.
Okay, I'm going to try to do this in 90 seconds, but this is one that's personal to me. So as a superintendent that serves now, I actually experienced going through a storm. I think it was Hurricane Helene or Helen. So one of the most important things that you have to do as state superintendent and as a superintendent is to prepare. And so just as Ms. Edwards stated before, you have to prepare before a storm hits. And so that happens from you have to be able to collaborate with your community. So one thing that I did as superintendent very briefly is to be able to talk to my local GMA director, as well as the sheriff and the fire chief, as well as the local pastors, because you know the storm is coming. And Hancock was hit pretty hard. We were out of school approximately 2 or 3 weeks. And so what we had to do is to be able to reach out to those people. We didn't have phones. We didn't have some of our community lost power, and we are in a poor community. We were one of the last ones to receive power. And so that's when you bridge the relationships and collaborate. One thing what I would do as superintendent is actually having that conversation with your local GMAs and school superintendents across the state and let them know that we are all partners in this together. If one district is out, we are all out. And so having districts not only do a safety support plan, because we do that for, school shootings and tornadoes while the kids are in school, but I'll actually put in place a plan that that districts respond not while the kids not in school, but out of school as well. And that's it. I know I'm almost on my time. Thank you, Ms. Fair.
Mr. Otha Thornton, you're next.
Thank you. Thank you. So in Georgia, as mentioned, agriculture is our #1 industry. So climate resilience and is we must support it with our farmers and students. Now, first of all, we need to invest in farmers. What do I mean by that? Sustainable practices, working with the federal and state government and getting grants and just capital in to do this to keep them competitive long term. Second, I would say expand farm to school pipelines, connecting the farms to the schools and communities. And the third thing is education and workforce alignment, teaching students agriculture, sustainability, and career pathways. Now, with that being said, I'm actually doing that. Every year I work with the agency here in Georgia where we take students to the county fair, and we have a big presentation of the opportunities available in agriculture. So we're doing that because that's the #1 industry when you get, and that's urban, rural, and suburban kids that we're doing this with on an annual basis. And fourth thing is just expanding access. And what I mean by that is the farmers markets, community supported agriculture, food to school programs, and especially in underserved communities. And finally, just invest in innovation, because when we invest in farmers, we invest in Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lydia Power, you're up next.
All right. And so #1, I am GMA trained for preparedness. I serve as a school and safety administrator over my building. So #1 is just being prepared, having that school safety plan. Everyone on the same page when it comes to what school safety looks like for any weather or anything of that nature. In addition to that, the CTAE expansion, some school districts, because of funding, have moved away from the A in CTAE, and they're just doing career technology and education. We need to get the A back in, because I've mentored students and worked with students through the counseling programs. concerning agriculture, and it's linked to pharmacy. So there are students that actually go to agriculture schools now, and they're doing a double major, but students need to be aware of that. So ensuring that when we look at all 159 counties, the students are getting the same access. Number one, the counseling and support. Number two, the GMA trained preparedness. I've been in 4 different districts in the state of Georgia, and the district that I'm currently in is the only district where I had a team of people that actually came to do GMA training, and it was required by this county. That is not universal. So as state superintendent, we will have more consistency when it comes to school safety and safeguards. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I had to circle your name, Mr. Craig Cupid, to make sure I don't forget you this time. So you're up next, Mr. Cupid.
Thank you. When Hurricane Helene hit Georgia in September 2024, over 1 million Georgians lost power. By the way, my hometown, Augusta, was hard hit, and my parents still live there. It took many days for restoration. That meant spoiled food, missed work, and seniors suffering in dangerous conditions. And it was lower income families, small businesses, and rural communities who recovered last. Here's what's unacceptable. Georgia currently has inadequate performance standards for storm restoration. The utility sends ratepayers the bill afterward with almost no consequences for delays. That disrespects the families and small businesses who depend on reliable power to survive. My plan has multiple parts. First, establish clear restoration timelines with financial accountability when utilities fall short. Second, require investments in grid hardening before storms hit. Prevention is more cost-effective than rebuilding, and it protects the communities that get hit hardest. Third, ensure recovery resources reach the most vulnerable communities first. Low-income families and rural communities should not be the last in line for restoration. When a family loses power for a week, the financial damage can take months to recover from. Every family and every business that is the backbone of our economy deserves a PSC that treats resiliency as a priority, not an afterthought. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Miss Sheila Edwards, you're up next. Oh no, Miss Angela Presley, you're up next, Miss Angela Presley.
Yes, well, thank you. Absolutely. So I do think that in terms of disaster recovery, each organization and agency has their role to play. I believe as a public service commissioner, my role really is the forethought in being sure that we have the systems in place to address these issues, and those systems being more renewable energy sources such as solar, battery storage, geothermal applications, things that in times of storm can be part of the solution to maintaining power for our vulnerable communities. I spoke with a woman, and she wanted some balcony solar, but she didn't have it and lost about $200,000 worth of medication. Just down the street from me, I spoke with a senior, and she was in the cold because she couldn't afford to turn on her heat. And so what we're looking at is our extreme costs with energy, but we also are looking at extreme events because we've not chosen the reliable and responsible solutions. We've chosen solutions that are gas and methane, but if we choose these renewable sources, certainly we can really shorten that time frame for being back on the system, because we would have the backup systems in times of storms and not have to suffer with the effects of those storms. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 3. If elected, what specific actions will you take?
I'm sorry. Has Ms. Edwards answered this question?
Yes, she started us off. She was the first one.
Sorry about that.
Yes. Question number 3. If elected, what specific actions will you take to lower costs for working families? And how will you ensure that the policies you implement don't just benefit wealthy Georgians, but actually put money back in the pockets of working class families? Starting us off will be you, Ms. Lydia Powell.
All right, good evening again. So the policies for working class families, I'm not sure that the state superintendent of schools can do anything with that. However, I will say we would ensure that all students are college and career ready when they leave so that they're able to support their families. In addition to that, we will fight to keep the Hope Grant and Hope Scholarship alive so that our families aren't struggling to send in with Parent Plus loans and things of that nature to in order to pay for their students to go to school. And as a state superintendent, we can make sure funding is available for additional grants for those students that are in poverty that may not be able to get that 3.0 GPA to qualify for the Hope Scholarship, and keep the Hope Grant alive, because a lot of our students are not going to go to a four-year college. However, they can take up a trade by by using that grant. In addition to that, when we look at families, I do a lot of work with domestic violence shelters. A lot of times it's economics that holds people back from being able to be safe and leave the home. Again, that Hope Grant gives a mom or a person in an abusive situation the opportunity to go get a career and be able to have income so that they can stay safe and keep their children safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sheila Edwards. Ms. Edwards?
Yes, what's your question?
Okay. If elected, what specific actions will you take to lower costs for working families? And how will you ensure that the policies you implement don't just benefit wealthy Georgians, but actually put money back in the pockets of working class families?
Well, first of all, I would push back on unnecessary rate increases. And I would look at lowering bills directly by expanding energy efficient programs like weatherization, solar, with no upfront fees or costs to lower income families. Third, I'd support the percentage of income payment plan so families aren't forced to spend an unsubstantial share of their income just to keep lights on. Fourth, I'll work to change utility incentives so they make more money by keeping costs down and services reliable, not just by building expensive projects and passing those costs on to customers. I didn't get a chance to explain my background earlier, but I've worked in government on a local, state, and federal level. I was David Scott's first district director, and we concentrated on how to help consumers, how to help people with their issues, how to deal with constituent services. So my background clearly sets me apart from others who do not have the same experience of helping people with real issues, helping them navigate these systems, navigating government. I've also worked with the Georgia House Democratic Caucus, helping to elect Democrats up and down the ballot all across the state. And I believe that once we have a Democratic majority in place in the House and the Senate, working with them, we will help shape the narrative for moving forward with the Public Service Commission, because they can put some laws in place to make sure that marginalized communities are not impacted, that there is accountability by the people making the decisions, and that hardworking Georgians are not left with, carrying the burden of all of these rate increases.
You're over time, Ms. Edwards.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Craig Cupid.
Yes, thank you. My parents taught me that every penny counts. When my wife and I were both unemployed during the Great Recession, she was actually pregnant with our first child. I was living that truth all over again. Here's the reality. The PSC has approved rate increases after rate increases in just the last few years. Meanwhile, the utilities parent companies report record profits. That's not economic justice. That's families and small businesses subsidizing shareholder returns. As commissioner, here's what I would do. First, no more rubber stamping rate increases. I will evaluate whether proposed infrastructure is truly necessary or whether the utility is choosing the most expensive option to maximize its guaranteed profits. Second, I'll push for cost-effective energy solutions. Solar and battery storage are now competitive, a lot of times cheaper than traditional generation in many cases. Technology should make energy more affordable, not just higher bills. Excuse me. Third, I'll ensure large industrial users, especially data centers, pay their full infrastructure costs instead of shifting those costs onto residential ratepayers and the small businesses that are the backbone of our economy. I don't take utility money. That means when it's time to fight for lower bills, you don't have to wonder whose interests I'm serving. My only obligation is to Georgia families and small businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cupid. Ms. Angela Presley, you're next.
Okay, yes, very similar approach that I have in terms of the way we lower costs. First, we put resources toward the old housing stock because ratepayers are losing energy through their homes. They're not saving it because they don't have what we call the insulation for keeping energy in their home. So first, we need to resolve that. Again, we need to fix the grid because every time that Georgia Power has to repair the grid, we get billed for it. And so, and there's been so much irresponsibility in terms of the types of energy that the board has chosen to have. We spent $38 billion on nuclear energy that has very little benefit. I think one of the reactors might be 1,100 megawatts, and that's not nearly enough, yet we did get the burden of that. So I'll ensure that we make the right decisions in terms of the energy that we do distribute to our ratepayers, as well as using the renewable energies, because they are so much less, which means that we will, ratepayers, I being one, would also be paying less for energy. And I had a weather stuff, but I'm distracted by that 10 seconds. Had another point, but we'll get to that in the next question. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Anton Anthony.
I'm going to stay in this 90 seconds. Ms. Pear's going to be on me. So how do you lower the cost with anything? Everything that I answer is going to be education. So in order to lower the cost of anything, strengthen education. So our policy that we will focus on is strengthening our literacy initiatives. As you know, 70% of our kids, third and fourth graders, are not reading on grade level. And so that is a direct indication of how many prisons that they're preparing for. I don't know if you heard of that, but instead of increasing the prison pipeline, we're going to increase the workforce pipeline. And so that's why we are fighting for having all of our kids having access to all CTAE pathways. And so if they're exposed to those pathways, they have a greater chance of being successful. Our kids are only as successful as what they are exposed to. And so my biggest thing is making sure that our kids are exposed to every single pathway that exists, because instead of just producing graduates, we want to produce a great workforce that is, instead of just minimum wage, the more we are educated, the more valuable we become as individuals. So that's what our plan is, to strengthen the education to lower the cost for everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. Mr. Otha Thornton, you are next.
Thank you. The best way to lower costs is to reduce the hidden costs of education. So first of all, again, fully fund public schools. That's number one. So families aren't paying out of pocket. Second, expand meal programs. every child needs to have access to nutrition. Back again to a practical standpoint, I worked with the Secretary of Agriculture back in 2015 to get over $100 million worth of food grants to Georgia and other states since that time. And Georgia, like last year, the governor turned it down. However, I fought, but that is something that we have available because nutrition is linked to academic achievement. So that's understood. So I continue to fight for that. The next thing is affordable after-school programs that need to be safe, structured, and accessible. And also fourth, transparencies. Families deserve to know where these resources go. So again, we have a lot of resources, and unfortunately, and this is where I have an advantage in the race, I understand federal funding and state funding and how to get resources down to schools, and we need to do better. And finally, just listen to families, because education shouldn't be an opportunity and not a financial burden. And with that being said, we just passed, the bill's being passed for the Georgia Dream, which gives $300 million for need-based scholarships in Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. Thornton. Last, Mr. Cedric Kent Rowe Jr.
Right. As Commissioner of Agriculture, I plan to eliminate the middleman. As I said earlier, we need to focus on the farmers and the consumers, the people that eat it. By expanding more markets for not only rural Georgia, but urban areas. That way, it'll give farmers more maximal profit. Not only that, but access to fresh food is also cheaper for housing the people in the community. So by them having these expanding CSA programs to where they're just not in one area, they're all across the state of Georgia, open up more markets to where farmers can have more access to, sell their produce and get up a reasonable price so they win. Consumers get fresh produce and also, lower costs. So by doing that, it keeps the corporate middleman from winning. So in order for us to make sure that farmers, are taken care of and consumers are lowering the cost, the biggest thing is eliminate the middleman.
All right. Thank you all for that. Question number 4.
And excuse me, Mr. Robinson, we actually need to skip down to question 6. We are limited on time to this evening.
All right. So question 6 is going to be a specific question for Commissioner of Agriculture. So this will be directly to you, Mr. Cedric Kent Rowe Jr. As Commissioner of Agriculture, what is your specific plan to support Black farmers, helping them access land, capital, and bring the next generation of Black Georgians into agriculture? And will you commit to creating a state-level reparation fund for Black farmers who lost land due to discriminatory practices?
As Agriculture Commissioner, I plan to support that. But first, we need to end the waiting game. That's the most important. Short processing time and fair loan access. Me being a farmer, I know that process of being discriminated and waiting on that loan or being able to be, taken care of like every other farmer should or rancher. Next, I want to be the voice for farmers. That's one thing I started out doing early. So being that voice, doing the hard work, the work that people don't see, the big fight. Someone needs to be, advocating for these farmers to get the payment. Money shouldn't have to be waiting when it's already allocated towards farmers and what they are already lost. So my biggest thing is basically using that strike team that I talked about to increase that lending. We don't just need the money, we need standardizing when it comes to lending models. We need farmers to walk them through the process, so that way we can avoid that red tape. We need those access and resources and tools, not only just the money, but we need those tools to make sure farmers are staying ahead of the game when it comes to technology, being innovative. So my biggest thing is being a voice, being an advocacy for Black farmers.
Thank you. The next question is for state school superintendent candidates. As state school superintendent, what is the one specific change that you would demand from the legislature to make school funding more equitable for students in low-income communities? And if the legislator refused to act, what would you do with the power you have to ensure that every student receives the resources they need to succeed?
Now, that is for me first, right?
Yes, Dr. Anthony, that is for you first.
Okay, all right. So the first thing is the obvious thing is QBE, but I know QBE is a tall task to ask for the legislators to do. I understand QBE a little bit better than most because I have to sign off on FTE and actually make sure that kids are enrolled to see if their weights are different. The one thing that I would fight for is what I hear my teachers, my classified staff, is fight for raises for them. They're not as fortunate enough to be on a pay scale. So my bus drivers, my secretaries, my paraprofessionals, those are the ones that are truly doing the work in our lower income areas because we can't really find a whole lot of teachers. The funding for our teachers, the increase of salary, because once the state don't provide certain things in lower income, we don't have that tax base to support teachers with a supplement in those. And so the quality of teachers and the quality that we have to, get, we get the not so great unless you live in that area. And so one of the things that I would do if they refuse to increase the funding for our teachers and our classified staff is actually, I'm going to be vocal because our paras, our bus drivers, and our secretaries are the ones that vote. And so I will be loud. I'll be knocking on the door and I'll tell everyone that they are refusing to give you a raise because you are actually doing the work and you are valued and we see you. So that's one of the things that I'm going to do because in order to affect kids, you have to ensure that the people that are teaching them are happy. And that's what I'm doing when I get into office. Thank you, Ms. Pear.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. Next, Mr. Otha Thornton.
Okay, as I mentioned before, the biggest flaw in the Georgia education is the funding. And again, if we don't properly fund, then we continue to have these problems. The gap costs in our schools hundreds of millions of dollars a year for that. The state budget is $38.7 billion last year, and $15 billion went to education K through 12. And we have 15, 16 billion in the bank. So we have the money. And as a matter of fact, I'm one of the only ones here that's actually down at the Capitol working and talking with legislators to get additional funding. Last year, although we did not get the proper funding, we were able to get $200 million more dollars advocating for our school systems. That's a Band-Aid. And again, I will work to make that happen. We need to expand the poverty weights in the QBE. That's very important. Second, invest in the whole child. What I mean, we need to invest more in mental health, academics, and overall well-being. And third, I said, working directly with the legislators. And if they do not act, I have the courage, and I will continue to have the courage to call them out. I talk to rural, suburban and urban legislators about the impact of the legislation they have on our community. So again, those are things that I will do. I will continue to do the work in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thornton. Ms. Lydia Powell, you're next.
All right, so number one, I'll go back to the QBE formula. Again, last year, it did not pass. However, just working with data specialists to roll out that data so people understand what QBE is and how schools are funded. And so just continuing as far as grassroots efforts and getting everyone on board with education and the understanding of how that works. I too, I'm not necessarily at the Capitol, but I built relationships with state senators and state representatives. And before they go into committee, having conversations with them about funding and how it impacts us in the school. So when you're actually in the school and you have to nickel and dime and have, bake sales to pay for students to take AP testing or to make sure kids have food, you understand what it is to get adequate funding. So number one, as well, just like we train teachers how to give the milestone test and train administrators how to give the milestone test, we need to train administrators how to maximize FTE. A lot of administrators do not know how to build a master schedule that accounts for the gifted and the special ed and the ESOL populations as far as creating that master schedule. So statewide, 159 counties would have to go through that particular training to make sure funds are maximized as well. Thank you. Oh, I have like 8 more seconds. And also working with different counties as far as their SPLOS, because whatever they could bring to the table, that will help the school district as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. The next question is for Public Service Commission. As a Public Service Commissioner, how would you balance Georgia economic development goals with the need to protect working families from rate hikes and communities from environmental harm? And will you require tech companies to invest in renewable energy and pay their fair share for infrastructure costs? Starting with you, Ms. Angela Presley.
Might need you to repeat that question again.
Okay, no problem. As a Public Service Commissioner, how will you balance Georgia's economic development goals with the need to protect working families from rate hikes and communities from environmental harm? And will you require tech companies to invest in renewable energy and pay their fair share for infrastructure costs?
Yes, absolutely. I would balance all of that. That really is the premise of my race. And that is that data centers have have energy needs and vast energy needs, and so those energy needs shouldn't be at the cost of ratepayers. So I'll require them to foot their own costs, but some of them are interested in renewable energy, and so I'll be sure that in that IRP plan, or when we look at rate cases and proposals for new energy, that we are always considering renewable energy. But as well, renewable energy is an economic gift at this point. 50% of all new energy construction is solar, and 30% is battery storage, which means that my students, when they graduate, can have economic opportunities in the renewable space. And as I've worked with many clients over the years, corporate clients, one of the things that I am tasked to do is have data analytics and also to have public input. And what I always recommend to my clientele is that they reinvest in the communities that they make, where they make their money. That's really a fair approach, because when you reinvest, then the community has what they need to, again, purchase the products that you have. But if you've depleted all of their resources, then they have nothing. And so I will ensure that the community has something. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Presley. Mr. Craig Cupid.
The current approach to data centers in Georgia is not sustainable. In my hometown in Augusta, they're building a data center twice the size of the Augusta Mall that employs hundreds of people. The data center, about 20 or 30 permanent employees. Yet the PSC just approved billions in new gas plant infrastructure, largely to power these facilities, with costs that flow to all ratepayers. That's not economic development. And that's residential ratepayers and small businesses subsidizing corporate welfare for big tech. And the environmental impact is real. New gas plants with 45-year lifespans lock Georgia into fossil fuel emissions for decades and expose families to volatile fuel costs. Here's my approach. First, data centers must pay the full cost of infrastructure built to serve them, and yes, invest in renewables. There should be no subsidies from residential ratepayers and the small businesses that are the backbone of our economy. Second, before approving new generation, I'll require verification of load projections. Families shouldn't be stuck paying for plants we didn't need or don't need. Third, I'll demand genuine alternative analysis. Solar, any other renewables and storage can deliver power more cost effectively and faster than gas plants in many cases without the fuel cost volatility. Thank you.
Thank you all for answering these questions in a timely fashion. So we're going to take at this time, we're going to take questions from the audience.
We missed Ms. Edwards for that last question.
Okay. Ms. Sheila Edwards.
Yes, I didn't get a chance to answer that last question. And if you could just repeat it quickly for me. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
I asked if you could repeat the question, please.
Yes, ma'am. I'm getting to your specific question.
Thank you.
And I can go ahead and ask while I'm on it. As a public service commissioner, how will you balance Georgia's economic development goals with the need to protect working families from rate hikes and communities from environmental harm? And will you require tech companies to invest in renewable energy and pay their fair share of infrastructure costs?
Yes, economic growth shouldn't come at the expense of working families or the environment. And as commissioner, I will make sure that utility rate hikes never unfairly burden families while still supporting reasonable and responsible development. I think there's a lot of conversations going on now about data centers and them cropping up in our communities. The unfortunate thing is you don't ever see them cropping up in Buckhead or Alpharetta. You always see them cropping up in the communities south of I-20. And that's a problem because we still don't know the full impact of data centers. We don't know if, a year from now we'll wake up with two horns and a tail. We just don't know the dangers from a data center, the environmental dangers, the dangers to us as people. And we have to stop and have a conversation about it. And a lot of communities are putting in moratoriums to have those various conversations. But again, what happens once the moratorium, you go beyond that? You have to make sure that these companies are paying their fair share, that nothing that they want or desire is placed on the backs of ratepayers. And in fact, there needs to be a situation created where they create a fund that helps create parks and other things within our communities. If they want to be a part of our community, what are you bringing to the table? And if you're not bringing something good that's sustainable. Excuse me?
And we've reached time.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Robinson, we do have a question in the chat, and because of time, we only have time for one of those questions. So I will go ahead and ask that. It was asked of PSC, but we can actually apply this question to all the candidates. It is from Dr. Mintz in the audience. So that question is, as Commissioner of Agriculture, State School Superintendent, or Public Service Commissioner, will you commit to refusing campaign contributions from the industries you regulate? And if you do accept contributions from these industries, how will you ensure that your decisions are based on what's best for Georgia families, not what's best for donors? And we can start with Ms. Presley.
Okay, so, I've been talking about my research background, and what happens with research is it's objective because you're looking at data, you're matching it with the U.S. Census Bureau to be sure that it's inclusive of all of the people who live in a particular area. And so that eliminates you having to have guesswork. It's very objective. And so I would be having those discussions and those platforms for public input as I tour the 5 districts so that my decisions will be based on very objective evidence as what we would be doing. And so, no, I would not take contributions from special interest groups that would be a conflict of interest to what I'm doing.
Thank you, Ms. Presley. Next, we have Mr. Cupid. And please let me know if you would like me to repeat that question.
I think I have the gist. So yes, I've committed to taking $0 from utility companies. We have monopoly utility companies in Georgia. You can't switch to another electric company. That's exactly why the PSC exists, to protect families and small businesses from a monopoly charging more than necessary. But when the people who are supposed to regulate the monopoly are funded by the monopoly, the system is broken, and it's been broken with the past PSC commissioners. So I don't take their money. I take your trust seriously, and as an engineer and attorney, I have the technical skills to do the work of holding them accountable, not just the willingness, but the ability to read every study, every financial projection, and every technical proposal and know whether it's truly in the interest of ratepayers. That's what independent oversight looks like. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Edwards? Looks like you're on mute. Ms. Edwards, would you like me to repeat the question for you?
Yes, please repeat the question.
Okay. As Public Service Commissioner, will you commit to refusing campaign contributions from the industries you regulate? And if you do accept contributions from these industries, how will you ensure that your decisions are based on what's best for Georgia families, not what's best for your donors?
Thank you. Accountability starts with independence. And if elected, my responsibilities will be to the people of Georgia, not to wealthy donors, not to corporate lobbyists, and definitely not to utility companies. And as I said, I was a Democratic nominee in 2022, and Patty Duran, who was also a Democratic nominee for a different district, we crisscrossed the state of Georgia talking about utilities, talking about Georgia Power, talking about the Public Service Commission and why it's not fulfilling its role relative to the people of our state. So no, I will not be a candidate for contributions from them. I think ultimately we will have to have a conversation with Georgia Power to bring them into the thinking that needs to move forward for our community. But at the end of the day, I'm not interested in their donations. What I'm interested in is good public policy for our community, taking on pocketbook issues for seniors, working families, others who are struggling each day in order to pay their utility bills.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. We're at time.
Thank you.
Ms. Powell?
All right, so my campaign is based on grassroots efforts. My campaign is based off of my former students and former teachers and families I've worked with. And I do not believe in taking dark money to influence this election or for them to come back later and ask favors. Some of the areas are anything dealing with guns, because that's destroying our families and our communities. Anything associated with vapes or smoking or tobacco. Private schools, I am against the Georgia Promise Scholarship because this campaign is about ethics, it's about our core beliefs, and it's about children. And anything that goes against that, this campaign is not interested in. So I've had this conversation with people that work on my campaign committee. There has been offers from different organizations. However, I have belief in my community that we do not need to take that sort of money, and we will never take that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. Dr. Anthony.
I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but I agree with my counterparts of not taking any, we call it dark money. My biggest concern is the 1.8 million students in the state of Georgia. And we're looking for partners. We're not looking for, dark money or any favors. We are looking for partnerships when it relates to apprenticeships and jobs. So if we can have that, that'll serve better than the funds that they will try to pay us and offer us. But other than that, we definitely commit. I commit to not receiving any funds, but offering actually looking for the support for our 1.8 million students. And if it's not students first, we say no to everything else.
Thank you. Mr. Thornton.
Okay, first of all, just with my background, working in the Obama administration, the White House, where we had to report everything. You know, I served on national boards, state boards. My answer is no. When it comes to money, you want to make sure that you walk into that office with integrity. The majority of my donations are from $5, $10, $25 donations. And I do have the support of Georgia Federation of Teachers and Educators First endorsements and support. But again, the beautiful thing about those two organizations, when I talked to them about the platform and what we want to do, we were in alignment. And again, that's in alignment with the children and family of Georgia. So no, I will not take any dark money. And again, we will have to work with stakeholders to get monies and funds into our schools, and we will do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Rowe?
Okay, I would just say I would not also be taking no dark money of any kind, but like I said, my main focus would be, making sure people are held accountable as Commissioner of Ag when it comes to large corporate companies and big ag. So just making sure that the playing field is level and that people are held accountable and not trying to pay their way to keep things the way they used to be.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. That concludes audience questions. I will now pass it back over to our moderator, Mr. Robinson, for everyone's exit statements.
Uh-oh. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Okay.
And while you're looking for that, the first candidate up is Ms. Edwards. In 90 seconds, please give us your closing statements.
Ms. Edwards?
Okay, can you give me some clarity? Because I thought early on you said that you would allow me some extra time because I didn't have an opening.
Well, I said we'll see if we could give you 30 seconds or have you just add it in your closing statements to talk about.
For the sake of time, you have 90 seconds for your closing statements.
Okay. Well, again, I'm Sheila Edwards, and I'm running for the Georgia Public Service Commission. I know that the issues that matter most to working families are pocketbook issues, the monthly bills that come in the mail, the energy you rely on to heat your home or power your businesses, and the services you depend on every day. Too often, utilities and big corporations make decisions that protect their profits while working Georgians, small families, students, seniors, veterans, they're left to pay the price. If I'm elected, I will refuse campaign donations from the companies I regulate so I can make decisions that put families first. I will hold monopolies accountable by scrutinizing every rate increase, ensuring that investments go to underserved urban and rural communities, and expanding programs that directly lower bills, like no upfront costs, energy efficiency programs, weatherization, community solar, and percentages of income payment plans. I will make sure that utility profits are tied to results that matter, like lowering bills, reliable service, and real savings in the pocketbooks of working Georgians, not shareholders. We will track every energy burden, shutoffs, and infrastructure investment by income and geography and adjust programs under the people who need help most actually see it. At the end of the day, this is about fairness and accountability. Every vote I take, every policy I implement will be measured by one simple question. Does this put money back into the pockets of working families and improve their quality of life? That's how I will use the PSC to fight for Georgia families, not corporate profits. And again, I'm the only candidate in the race with public service experience, having ran in 2022 for the Democratic nomination. I'm the only candidate in the race with local, state, and federal government experience, as well as business and corporate experience. And I will bring those qualities to bear for the people of Georgia as I fight for.
You've reached time. Thank you, Ms. Edwards.
Thank you.
Mr. Cedric Kent Rowe Jr., you're next.
Okay. First off, I want to say thanks for the opportunity. My name is Cedric Kent Rowe Jr. I'm your next Agriculture Commissioner for Georgia, and I want to say vote for me because, you know, we're running on an obsolete system that needs to be updated and changed. Not only that, you're not only voting for a first-generation farmer, but you're voting for an agriculture scientist, someone that understands bridging the gap between rural Georgia and also urban Georgia. Not only that, but having the experience of being innovative and also being a farmer myself, that plays a big part in it. So I know what farmers go through, and I know how hard it is for feed families. As a father, I understand rising costs and groceries. So you're looking at someone that understands the people and want to be a voice and advocate for Georgia. Like I say, let's grow this state row by row, row for Georgia.
Thank you, Dad. Dr. Anton Anthony.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you tonight for having me here, DeKalb County and the voters of Georgia. I just want to tell you that I'm Dr. Anton Anthony. I've served as a public school teacher. I've served as a bus driver, assistant principal, a central office worker in DeKalb County Schools, human resource manager, and now I am a superintendent. Listen, we will all have similar answers, as you heard tonight, but what it boils down to is the experience of being a public school leader, and I am that as a current superintendent. I will not have to have any on-the-job training. I can start day one to serve 1.8 million students in the state of Georgia. What we have to do as a party together is to put the best candidate in front of the Republican candidate in order to really win. And I am Dr. Anton Anthony. I would love to have your support for state school superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Otha Thornton.
Okay, hello. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we've heard ideas, plans, but now I want to talk to you about purpose. I'm running for state school superintendent because I've lived this work for over 2 decades, from the classroom, community, national stage, and as a former educator and retired Army Lieutenant Colonel, and also the only African-American male to serve as a national PTA president in a 125-year history, I spent my life advocating for children. I was also the 2018 Democratic nominee for state school superintendent. Since October, I've traveled over 15,000 miles and visited 37 counties. And I can tell you this right here. Our challenges may look different, but our hopes are the same. Parents want their children to read on grade level. Teachers want to be respected and supported. And students want a pathway to success, whether it's college, career, or service. But right now, too many of our schools are being asked to do more with less under a funding formula built for 1985, not 2026. So here's my commitment to you. We will fight for fully funded schools. We will prioritize literacy, because if a child can't read, nothing else matters. And we will expand career pathways and workforce readiness so every student has a future. And we will rebuild the partnership between parents, educators, and communities. This campaign is not about politics, it's about people. So please go vote for Otha Thornton at www.othathornton.com. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Thornton. Next, Ms. Lydia Powell.
All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to be here today. So experience matters. In this position, when we look at state superintendent of schools, having public school experience matters. As Democrats, we need to make sure we put someone in that seat during that primary that can beat the Republican opponent. When I ran for school board for District 1 in the city of Fayetteville, I brought 2% more voters out than Kamala Harris did when we looked at our district. I live in a very heavy Republican district, but it's my work with the community. I'm not afraid to go into those communities with the Confederate flags and the Trump flags. I have those conversations, those difficult conversations. I received the 100 Black Women Unsung Heroine Award because of my work in the community. I am a true and tried Democrat. I've served as post seat holder, precinct captain. I've served as PTSO president for the school that my children attend for the past 2 years. In addition to that, I've worked in DeKalb, Clayton, Fayette, Henry County. I have served in alternative schools, high achieving schools, high income schools, low income schools, 100% free and reduced lunch schools. I have relationships with senators and representatives, and they respect what I bring to the table. Thank you. www.drlydiapowell.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Craig Cupid.
Craig Cupid for PSC. This race is about respect. Respect for the millions of Georgia ratepayers who depend on the PSC to be their watchdog against monopoly utilities. Right now, that respect is missing. Rate hikes after rate hikes while the utility reports record profits. No performance standards when families lose power for a week after storms. Billions in infrastructure approved for data centers that create a few dozen jobs while families foot the bill. I'm running to change that. I'm an electrical engineer who can read the utility's technical proposals and know when they're choosing the most expensive option to maximize their profits. I'm an attorney trained to be an advocate, and at the PSC, my client will be you, the Georgia ratepayer. And I'm the son of immigrants who grew up in Augusta, counting every penny, so I will never forget who these decisions affect.
Thank you. Ms. Angela Presley.
Hello, Georgia. I'm Angela Presley for the Georgia Public Service Commission, and I have been advocating for you before I ran. I've been advocating for lower costs and clean energy, and it's the reason I got into this race in the first place. I looked at a hearing and saw a biomass plant that was going to harm the people that it was meant to serve with particulate matter so small that it could enter the bloodstream. And so I just thought the exploitation had to stop. And I know that I have the integrity to do it, the background to do it. And I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to be objective about the decisions that I make. And also that $16 billion that Georgia Power decided to have, or the commission decided to give to Georgia Power, and they promised to monitor it and pull back if they needed to. Well, I'm going to tell them we need to pull it back. But I need your vote, be that third person on the commission who can help Peter and Dr. Alicia to make the changes that we need to make. Accountability, green energy, and monitoring those data centers. Because I believe, Georgia, that the future of energy belongs to you and not the monopoly. Thank you for having me this evening.
Thank you all. I really want to thank you guys. And thank Hillary and the Democratic debate for putting this together. I really learned a lot from each of you guys. There's a lot I didn't know. I was taking notes. I had never heard of QBE before, so I was taking notes. You guys, this is my first time, to be honest with you. I'm around a lot of candidates in Atlanta, and Atlanta can have a lot of show and tell, without the substance sometimes. But you guys are very informative and very serious candidate. And as a super voter myself, I was writing down notes on you guys because this is my first time that every candidate seemed to be a serious candidate. And I really appreciate you guys for being informed and knowing your stuff and being so professional. So I was very in tune and very impressed with that. So I want to thank you. I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm serious.
Thank you, sir.
And at this time, I would like to turn it back over to Brandy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dewan. And thank you to all of our candidates for being here this evening. We really appreciate the time that you've put in. Dewan, thank you so much for moderating with us this evening, helping us to inform the audience of what these candidates are bringing to the table and making sure that we are asking the right questions. For the audience that is with us here tonight, I would love to just make sure that you know all of these candidates have put their information into the chat. So please, I would ask you to go and go to their websites, take a look at their platforms, take a look at their history to find out more about each of these candidates before May 19th, which is the primary election date, so that you can make sure that you are voting in the most informed way. If any of these candidates have impressed you this evening, I would ask you to please, they have put their contact information, please reach out to them, find out how you can support them, find out how you can support their campaign and the work that they are doing. It is not easy to run for office, as each one of these candidates can attest. So please, I would ask you to please reach out to them and let them know that you are in their corner and would love to support their campaigns. Each of these elections that we've talked about this evening are constitutional offices that shape the foundation of our state. These are offices that don't just make policy, they determine whether our food is safe, they determine whether our children receive quality education, and they determine what our utility bills are and whether they're affordable or not. So hopefully these candidates have expressed to you the importance of why you should not only be voting in this upcoming election, but also why you should be informing everyone around you why you should be voting, why they should be voting in these upcoming elections as well. There's a couple of important things we'd like to make sure that we encourage you to do. As I shared, follow these candidates' campaigns to understand their platforms and their priorities. Attend the candidate forums. We have another one next week, like this one, to hear directly from the candidates. Research these candidates' records and if they've held any previous offices or what they've done. They've talked a lot about what their platforms are this evening, but continue to get to know them so that you can make an informed decision on May 19th. And as always, make sure that you show up to vote either in early voting or on election day for the primaries on May 19th. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight. And before we close, I'd like to hand it back over to our special events chair, Hillary Lind, for a few final thoughts.
Thank you so much, Brandy. Thanks to all of the candidates and our army of volunteers who put this forum together tonight. Thank you, Madam Chair, and on behalf of our team, thank you again for the candidates for joining us. An event like this requires an army of volunteers, and I want to personally thank each of them. A huge thank you to our moderator, Dewan Robinson, DeKalb Dems Chair Brandy Weiss, Vice Chair Larry Lowe, and our incredible production team. Very big thank you to our Zoom operator, Amy Farrow, who helped us get through technical difficulties before the show even started tonight. Our technical support, Dr. Bola, Val Farrelly, and our timekeeper, Leona Perry. While we are volunteers who present events like this to inform citizens, we do have expenses and ask for your financial support. Please consider a small amount or a monthly recurring donation to power Democratic wins here in DeKalb. Join us for our Blue Ballot reception on Sunday, April 26th at Fernbank Museum, our biggest fundraising event of the year, featuring a nationally recognized keynote speaker. Can I say it? It's featuring Congresswoman Joyce Beatty and Georgia's top Democratic leader. So get your tickets right now. We do have early bird pricing, but that does end soon. Please check your voter registration to make sure it is up to date and make note of these important voting dates. The deadline to register to vote in the upcoming election is Monday, April 20th. Early voting is held between Tuesday, April 27th and May 15th. Election day is Tuesday, May 19th. And if there is a runoff, that will be held on Tuesday, June 16th. A recording of this forum is available for viewing and sharing on our YouTube channel. As well, webinar recently presented on why state elections matter. These are in the chat. Please visit DeKalbDems.com to discover ways to engage in activities right here in DeKalb. We are building our communities and encourage each of you to connect with them for local events and calls to actions that affect your neighbors. Finally, it was a pleasure for DeKalb Dems to present this information to you tonight. We wish each candidate a successful campaign. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope you all have a good evening.
Thank you all.
Thank you.